Perfect. Thank you. Navisha is the one that is coordinating everything that happens, so I'm very grateful. Thank you, Navisha, for all your help. It's really, really, really needed. Well, first and foremost, guys, thank you so much for taking a bit of your time to do what we're trying to do right here. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us, and I will try to repay your effort just by giving you some feedback on the actual negotiation today. We've been doing this a number of times now. We are running this as a part of a survey from my university together with World TC, where we're actually trying to look at how efficient are ChatGPT as a negotiation tool. And we've been doing this a number of times, as I said, and we've been running exercises where we have two teams that are only humans negotiating the same simulations, not using ChatGPT, just to make a comparison. Then we have teams like you guys where one team using ChatGPT and the other team is not. And then we have a third version of it where both teams are using ChatGPT. And obviously we have some results already, and I'm not going to tell you about that. If you're curious after we're done, I'm happy to share some more data, but I won't give you any kind of prehistoric data that you might dive into or have to create some kind of anchor effect. So we can talk about it afterwards when we're all done. The agenda for today, very quickly, is I'm going to give you a brief introduction to what we're going to do, what the simulation is all about. And after we're done with that, then you have preparation time to prepare your own negotiation. And the way we have planned it is that Mike and Caio, you are in one team and you are not negotiating using ChatGPT, and you're negotiating towards Andrew and Doc, which are going to use ChatGPT. And I'm obviously very, very excited and thrilled just to see how is this going to work out. Is it going to be a benefit using ChatGPT, or is it actually going to be the opposite? I have been sharing some information. We've been doing quite a lot of research into ChatGPT just to see how it could be used, when we should use it, and what it could be, some of the downsides, and what you have to be aware of. So I hope you had a chance to look into some of the paperwork I sent you prior to our session today. But just before we dive in, I was thinking, since some of us don't know each other, should we just do a brief introduction? Just so everybody got a little bit of an understanding who is who. I think that might be useful for us. Hi, Tim. Great seeing you. we have just reached the point where we're just going to do a brief intro of everybody. And Doc, do you want to start off?
There we go. Yeah, my name is Doug Turner. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia. I guess most of my Tim Cummins I've met before. He was here in Vancouver just a little while ago with Sally, and we met. I've spoken at a few of the WCC conferences over the years. I guess I'm a contract specialist, closest thing to a lawyer without being a lawyer, and worked on some major projects here in Vancouver in the aerospace and technology, but you know, mostly on the sell side, well, on the buy side as well, but you know, negotiating large contracts. And now I'm doing some teaching, you know, with one of the colleges here, so just to keep myself out of trouble.
Right.
But
good.
One of the things I teach is negotiation, so this is really kind of cool to get involved. But thank you.
Great. Have you tried, Doc, to use ChatGPT already as a negotiation?
I have never used it at all, ever. I'm not familiar with it at all. So this is a standing start for me.
well, we all have to start somewhere. So that's absolutely great. Thanks, Doc. Should we move on to Andrew? You're muted, Andrew.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Andrew Hubert. I teach and consult on negotiation, but mainly on cross-culture. That's my main subject. I was a long-term China hand. I lived in China. I lived in Shanghai from 2002 to 2012, and then I was floating around the orbit of China, especially Southeast Asia. Long time in Thailand, long time in Vietnam, until about 3 years ago. The COVID gave me the opportunity to redefine myself because you know, COVID and the Cold War. So I am now in Mexico, and I am front running the clients I knew from Asia who are going to have to rebuild their supply chains. So on paper, I'm a supply chain expert specializing in cross-cultural negotiation in Mexico and Latin America. You know, the subtext, when people try to build the next Alibaba of Latin America, I'm often in the same room.
Right.
Whether or not it's going to work is a different subject.
Exciting. If you don't follow Andrew already on LinkedIn, I would recommend you do it. Andrew, you have some great posts on the whole Asia, especially China thing. I think that's very educational and very useful for anybody who is in supply chain, definitely.
Well, we better have Andrew join us in the negotiation room. We can have an interesting conversation there. And,
it is.
Yeah, no, we've started to have conversations, Tim, but between COVID and other events, we just never seem to move forward.
Yeah, well, of course, we were in Mexico recently, but we have in Mexico City, we have quite a large member meeting in the end of April. But,
right.
Your timing was good. They're having a little bit of a volcano at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the midst of reading your latest article. It came into my email today. And
good. I'm glad that's working.
So I'll be coming back to you with one or two thoughts.
Good. I hope so. That'd be a good thing for us to talk about.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's move on to Caio. Did I pronounce it correctly, Caio?
Yeah, perfect. Caio. Well, I am a lawyer. For the past 10 years, I've been leading legal departments in different companies, most of the time in a Finnish company, therefore doing a lot of work in Europe. I see that I am the only one here not teaching negotiation, so this makes this whole exercise even more interesting to me today. I've been doing negotiation for a long time. One of my main goals when leading legal departments is to put it close to the business, and I'm happy to see that they like to invite me to join the negotiations, and that ended up being for the past years the most important part of my work. I have my own law firm for 3 years, and during the COVID, I did a lot of what I called litigation avoidance, meaning negotiation, trying to get people who need to maintain the relationship but can't stand them in face-to-face. So I was doing this kind of work very successfully during the pandemics, the COVID, and now I am more focused in negotiation and in negotiating, and I am just developing it on a more formal way. So I've been taking, I went to Harvard to do that 1 week course. I did 2 other courses here in Brazil, but mainly I've been doing it, on the go. And I see these, and I have been working, trying to get myself familiar with ChatGPT, not only ChatGPT, but Bard and also Bing. And I see these as a very important tool for us in the negotiation. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys today. Thank you.
Right. Well, great having you. Caio, I was actually a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a keynote in Amsterdam, and with lawyers, there was 250 lawyers in the room. And I asked them during my keynote, how many of them that felt an effect from ChatGPT already, how many of them that was losing revenue because of ChatGPT? And 50% of them said they were losing revenue already now because clients were basically just uploading contracts and using ChatGPT to get legal advice instead of going to the attorney. Is that something that you experience as well?
Yeah, well, that is a part of our daily activities. From a litigating perspective, this is not that much obvious so far because ChatGPT is limited to 2021. So if you need to get a precedents and so on, you may be losing some important updates. But from other angles that you analyze it, this is very, very useful. We can save a lot of time. It always requires a pair of human trained eyes to see the result and to refine it. But it saves a lot of time from the legal work, from the repetitive part of the legal work.
Right.
it is a very, very useful tool. It is, I mean, it needs some development, but I see that the development is coming on a very fast pace, more at being embarked than at ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is the more friendly one, in my opinion. The
Right.
one that you feel that you are interacting on a more personal level. Of course, it's not personal, but it's the one that looks more natural to me.
Right. Perfect. Well, great having you, Caio. Thank you so much for joining us. Last but not least, Mike.
Yes.
There I am. Hi. Hi, everybody. So I spent 15 years negotiating deals in the real world. I spent the last 13 teaching and negotiating, 80% teaching, 20% negotiating. And Andrew, your story about Mexico and cross-cultural just hit me. My one mistake I made in negotiating, I was down in Jalisco. I was the head of procurement for food and beverage for MGM Resorts International. We're the largest on-premise buyer of spirits in the world. And I went to Jalisco. We were going to negotiate. And the Mexicans there said, when should we start? And he said, 10 o'clock, let us get going. And they said, okay, 10 o'clock US time or 10 o'clock Mexico time. And I thought that meant a time zone thing. And I said, well, we're in Mexico, so 10 o'clock Mexico time. And as an American, I showed up and at 10 minutes to 10, and I was preparing. And at 10 minutes after 10, there was no one else in the room. And 10:15, a few people rolled in. And 10:20, I didn't understand the cultural difference at the time. Mexico time means we'll start when everyone gets here versus a little more strict like the Swiss.
A little looser.
A little bit looser. Yeah.
A little looser here.
But that's not a bad thing. You just have to understand it. So
Yeah.
You have to plan it. Build it in. That's what we
I get
do.
frustrated because that can be used against you if you're not careful. So I'm happy to be here. This is interesting, guys.
Right, cool. Well, thank you, Mike, for joining us as well. Tim, short intro.
Oh, well, I think well, no, it's not true that I know everybody, but so I'm Tim Cummins, the president of World Commerce and Contracting, which some of you, like Doug, certainly remember as IACCM, and probably still call IACCM. Yeah, well, of course, life, as we know, it's every day is a negotiation of some sort. But like all of you, my years of negotiation, well, not like all of you, my years of negotiation go back to the late 1970s. So I was just thinking it's 44, 45 years, I think, since I remember doing my first ones. But and like most of you, I also still do a lot of teaching, actually, teaching to the members, but equally, till recently been teaching in the law school at University of Leeds in the UK.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Tim. Last but not least, my name is Kelt. I am an associate professor at Thunderbird School of Global Management here in the US, part of ASU. I'm also a professor at a couple of universities in Europe, so I go back and forth. I'm running a consultancy company that advise and help organizations on their negotiations. And I've been working with Tim and World CC for, I don't even know how long, Tim. It's been many, many years now, which I had great fun with working on the conferences and working with members of World CC. Besides that, I'm an author. I've published a number of books internationally on the topic of negotiation, obviously. And then I do a lot of keynotes. I do a lot of research with my universities as well, just to dive deeper into negotiation. And the latest topic, obviously, is AI and ChatGPT and Google Bard and what have you. And that's the reason we're here, because Tim and I were talking about way back, and we actually did a study, Tim. Was it last year or was it 2 years ago, where we actually did an AI study without the technology? So we were kind of just pretending to have AI when we did the first round, which was, I think it was in 21, where we had a machine that was performed by a human being, but acting like a machine, helping one team compared to or negotiating with another team without that technology assisting, just to see how that worked out. And ChatGPT arrived, and then Tim and I thought immediately, we got to figure out how this will work out. How is it at this level, which is still obviously an early stage of ChatGPT and Google Bard and all the other technologies coming out. But how useful is it actually as a negotiation tool? And one of the best way of doing that is obviously trying to ask the international crowd. So we have had people from everywhere in the globe, from Australia to South America, to Europe, to Africa, to Europe, North America. Everybody's been on board and tried it out and running these exercises. And thank you. I can only repeat once again, thank you so much, guys, for taking out time to do this research study with us. It means a lot. And you're going to have your famous 15 minutes of fame, because we are obviously going to record your simulations, and then we're going to edit it a little bit, and then we're going to show it around the world. We're going to show it first and foremost just in a couple of weeks at the World CC Vibe Summit. We actually have shown part of it already at a conference World CC was hosting in Europe, in Copenhagen. And then we have the Dallas event in, I think it's October, where we're going to show snippets of it as well from the different negotiations we had. So we're trying to collect data and trying to learn something from these exercises just to see how it goes. So I'm obviously very, very intrigued about your feedback about the whole thing, both those of you working with ChatGPT in your negotiations today and those of you who are not. And obviously we're getting different feedback. Some people are saying it's way easier without, some people are saying it's way easier with, and some people are just right in between. So let's see how that goes. Anyway, what we're going to do
with so many educators with us today, also worth saying that of course we'll be very happy to let you take content from this overall piece of activity and look at blending it into your programs, because I think it is such a fascinating discussion point, and especially if you are the hero of the moment, it can impress your students.
Absolutely, absolutely. No doubt about it. And if there's anything you want from me as well, or the slide, anything, just let us know, because this is really about educating the world and how we can efficiently use AI within negotiation. I don't think it's a question whether we're going to use it, because we are, and people are using it already. I'm having clients every single day coming to me with comments and questions about how they're implementing AI in negotiations right now. I'm sure you have the same, Mike. So it's definitely out there. It's being used. And can it be used? Yes. Should it always be used? Probably not. And is ChatGPT always right? Absolutely not either. But it's definitely a very intriguing tool that we have to be better at. So anyway, guys, I just shared my screen. I hope you can see it. I'm just taking you through a couple of slides before you're diving into your simulation. We've created a very simple simulation. So obviously, as I said earlier, you're going to be divided into your two teams. And one team, obviously, as I said earlier, is allowed to use ChatGPT. The other one is recommended not to, just to make that comparison. And you will have up to 2 hours to prepare yourself. I don't think you'll need all of the 2 hours, but you're allowed to do it. And the reason that we keep 2 hours is because it have to be similar for all the different exercises we do. So whether you're negotiating without ChatGPT or with ChatGPT or partly with ChatGPT, it's important everybody have the same setup so we can compare the best possible way, as this is part of our research as well. So anyway, the purpose obviously is just to see what can we gain from this. So and again, as I said, I've been saying repeatedly, I really appreciate you taking time out. So what I want to give back is some feedback to your negotiation. Hopefully that'll be useful for you. So I'll give you some feedback on what I think went really well and what I think some of you might be being able to improve a bit on. And obviously we're going to send those recordings right on YouTube so everybody can watch the feedback. No, I'm kidding. We are obviously not, but you're going to get the feedback in here. And we're not going to share that feedback when we're showing it on conferences around the world. All we're focusing on is actually the outcome of ChatGPT, the benefit, upsides, downside, and what have you. Now, guys, one thing I just want to start talking about for a second is, why do we negotiate? And all of you guys are professional negotiators. So we have a really good group here today. You're experienced negotiators, and a lot of you are trainers as well. And I'm usually saying that the reason we negotiate is really to create success, right? That's the only reason we do negotiate. We want to create success for us, and some people want to create success for the counterpart as well. So I've stolen the famous quote from Dale Carnegie, who once said long time ago that success is getting what you want. And I've not been able to come up with anything better myself. So that's why I'm just traveling around the world with this quote, because it really emphasizes everything we want to do, right? So you are successful when you have achieved what you want. Now, Carnegie also added that happiness is wanting what you get. So if you're getting something you don't want, you may not be happy. So think about that during today's negotiation, that obviously, what is it we want to achieve? I have done a study, which is actually a little bit scary. And we've been looking at 35,000 negotiations globally. And I claim a lot of negotiations are being wasted. So as we're sitting here right now, I believe hundreds and hundreds of negotiations around the world are being wasted. And what do I mean by wasted negotiation? Well, one way of looking at it could be, let's assume that Mike, you and I, we are negotiating, and we're sitting here negotiating for hours and hours and hours. And finally, we agree to disagree. We can't reach an agreement. We leave each other, and Mike goes home and he's thinking, well, it's all Kel's fault because he couldn't see the opportunity and he was blind, blah, 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 whatever. Now, in theory, we know in this study that up to 34% of all those disagreements, or all those agreements that are not successful, could actually have agreed. I mean, the two parties should have made a deal with each other, because it would have been better for them to reach an agreement with the counterpart than not reaching an agreement. I'm not talking about negotiations that fails in general, because some negotiation is actually better not to reach an agreement than reaching an agreement. I mean, if it's better not reaching an agreement financially than reaching an agreement, obviously that's a successful negotiation. I'm talking about negotiation where the parties would have benefited from reaching an agreement with each other. So 1/3, I'm claiming, based on our study, that 1/3 of all negotiations are actually failing where the two parties should have reached an agreement with each other. So, and we've actually seen that, Tim, during our studies right here. We've seen some of these negotiations that breaks down and they couldn't reach an agreement even though they should have. So the other part is perhaps even more interesting, and that is the concept of asymmetric value, because we have discovered in our research that about 58% of the values in a negotiation where the two parties reach an agreement are actually identified, realized, and capitalized. So that means that up to 42% of the values in a negotiation is being left on the table. So imagine, Andrew, you and I are negotiating, we're reaching an agreement, we shake hands and sign the contract and go back home, and both of us feels really good about what we've done. But what neither of us are realizing is that we left up to 42% of that value on the table. And this is what I call negoeconomics, negotiation economics, the asymmetric difference between your cost and my value, or my cost and your value. So it will be exciting for me to look into today's simulation just to see, hopefully the first one doesn't happen, so it's complete breakdown. And I can help you so much telling you that the simulation is actually created so it is possible for you to reach an agreement. You know, we could have been nasty and been writing a simulation where it's impossible to reach an agreement, but it is possible to reach an agreement. So it's going to be interesting to look at the second circle, sorry, just to see how much of that value that is being utilized. Now, guys, with due respect, you're all professionals, so there's probably nothing new here, but I just want to summarize very quickly some essential items that you need to prepare prior to your negotiations. And one of them is getting to know your counterpart. And what I mean by that is not so much what they're saying, not so much what they're verbally expressing, but really understand their needs and values, expectations, and all of that. So really get an understanding of the counterpart. But that team today using ChatGPT, ChatGPT is actually very useful to do that. You can actually ask ChatGPT about that. And remember, for those of you who haven't used ChatGPT so much so far, the quality you're going to get out is based on the quality that you actually put in. So think about ChatGPT as a human being. You need to be expressive. You need to have a conversation going. So the more data you put into ChatGPT, the better outcome you're going to get back. So what we're actually seeing, the teams using ChatGPT in our previous research, the ones who are being most successful actually uploaded an enormous amount of information and got an enormous amount of information back. So getting to know your counterpart is obviously something that is rather important. The other advice I would like to share with you guys is that you need to divide some roles. Now, you have two members in the team. Sorry. And I normally recommend that we're negotiating as a team. I know, Mike, we have a brief conversation today on LinkedIn about that, and I completely agree with your comments, by the way, that it can create that intimacy. It's more intimate if we're just one-on-one. I agree with that. But normally, if we are into larger, more important negotiations, I would recommend a team. And when we're talking about the team, we normally talk about three roles. We have a head of the negotiation team, we have a calculator, and a note taker. Now, the head of the team is the head of the team, so I would recommend one of you is becoming the head of the team today. That doesn't mean that the head of the team is the only one that is supposed to do something and say something and moving that negotiation forward. The supporter is very much allowed to be part of that negotiation as well, but it shouldn't be a surprise to the head of the team what the other individual is going to say. So that have to be coordinated. Now, so if we have a head of the team, the other two roles have to be divided into that other individual, obviously, and that is the note taker and calculator. Calculator, it says so in the title. The calculator will know what is up and down financially. So the calculator, that role, you need to know exactly, are you ahead, are you behind? How does the financial look at this point? And the note taker is basically the one that is covering everything that is happening. That is the memory of the team. So one of you have to be calculator and note taker, and that means doing the summarization, remembering what happened, what variables did we discuss, how is the financial looking like, and the other one is the head of the team. How you do that and work internally, all up to you. You're all professionals, but you have to figure out how you want to do that. I would give you one recommendation in regards to ChatGPT. The team using ChatGPT today, I would divide the role. So one of you is handling ChatGPT as you negotiate, and the other one is handling the actual negotiation. Because I think one of our learnings, Tim, is that it's really hard operating ChatGPT live and then running negotiation at the same time. So you might want to create some kind of alternative communication channel besides this Zoom call when you're doing the actual negotiation. But that's just a piece of advice I want to share with you. The third one of here is expect the unexpected. And obviously I can't help you with that. I think I would be more successful if I could actually help my clients expect the unexpected. But what I just want you to think about is having a plan B. So what happens if and when the counterpart is not responding as you expected to any kind of proposal or what you are asking them? Then obviously, number 4 up here is importance of the negotiation. Back to what I basically just said, you have to I realize how important is this negotiation for us? Do we have a next best alternative that might put us in a more powerful position? Or do we really have to be successful in this negotiation and make it happen? So you need to address that before you step into today's simulation as well. Then you need to have an overview of all variables, all quotes, and all alternative. And the variable, I'm sure you know what I mean by that. That's everything that is negotiable. If something is controlled by law or company policy, is not a variable. So you have to identify everything that is negotiable in today's simulation. Remember to look at the big picture. Number 6 up here. So that means put everything in a package. Negotiate as much as possible as you can. Create an agenda both for yourself and your own team and with the counterpart. And have a very clear objective. What I normally share with my students and clients is you're not qualified to negotiate if you don't have a starting point, if you don't have a threshold of pain. That means walk away scenario. And last but not least, have a target. So have those 3 items in place, right? And then regardless whether you're going to be on the buying side or the selling side today, be active with bids and bargaining. Sometimes I see that what I would call old school procurement officer is just leaning back behind his desk, putting his legs on the table, and then tells the supplier, give me your best shot. And then he's not actually really involved in negotiation. He's just kind of getting info out of the supplier. So try and be active on both sides of the table. And then last but not least, obviously, you need to create a strategy. Are you going to be collaborative? Are you going to be more positional? How are you going to conduct today's negotiation? Let's look at the actually simulation, guys, the one that you're going to get. So what I'm going to do in a couple of minutes is that
Just one quick point that often comes up, particularly around things like expect the unexpected. Again, as with your real world negotiation, if you feel you need to call a break and go off for a moment into a side room to consult with each other, then of course you can institute that. Obviously, again, bearing in mind the finite time that you've got available, but there could be an occasion where obviously you would like to break for a moment for that dialogue with your partner.
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree, Tim. You are very much allowed to use a break. You have to be aware, though, as I said earlier, you're going to have 2 hours maximum to do your preparation, and you're going to have 30 minutes to conduct the actual negotiation. And some of you might be thinking, that sounds like a lot, but I can promise you it isn't. So you have to be very efficient on timing, both in your preparation and during the actual negotiation. So please be aware of that, but you can absolutely, as Tim said, use break if you want to. Anyway, we created a very, very simple simulation. It's a simulation that is a negotiation going on between 2 companies. And one company who is the buyer is a company called the Architect House. So those of you who are on the buying side, you are going to be the architect house, and those of you who are going to be the supplier is going to be a transportation company named DK Logistics. And this negotiation is fairly easy, because what we have is that the architect house need large amount of Italian furniture shipped from Vietnam and delivered throughout the US. And it's to a retail store that needs these furnitures, where the architect house has designed the retail stores, right? So architect house reaches out to DK, the transportation company. They know each other from previously, so the relationship is actually good. They have a good relationship with each other already. There's not a bad history. Tim, you want to say? You want to share something? No, okay, right. The longtime partner, DK Logistics, have given a bid of 520,000 for delivery on November 4th. So that is the proposal that's on the table already. And what we also know is that the payment terms in the bid is 100% on placement of the order. What we're seeing is that the architect house has requested a meeting, and that's the meeting you guys are going to have today. And they want to address three things, really. Price, not surprisingly. They also want to discuss time of delivery, and then they want to discuss the payment terms in this case. So that's basically the three variables that is on the table that needs to be discussed. What you're going to get in a minute, guys, when you're in the breakout room, is that I'm coming to you in the breakout room, and I'm going to share with you your own paper. And you're going to get one piece of paper, and the top part, the first 50% of the paper, is shared information that your counterpart will know of as well. And the bottom part of the paper, the remaining 50%, is confidential information that only you know of. So that means everything that's on the bottom part of that paper is not something that counterpart knows of, okay? So top part, everybody knows that. Bottom part, confidential information only for you. As I said, we will split you into breakout rooms in a second. And the rooms are prepared already. You will have up to 2 hours to prepare yourself. If you're ready beforehand, just let us know. I'll be popping in and out of the breakout rooms just to follow up and see if there's any questions, and just observing and following on what's happening. And if there's any question I can help you with, please ask me. Obviously, I cannot help you with the counterparts information. That will be cheating, but I'm willing to help you any other way that might be needed. If you feel that you are done before 2 hours, please let us know, and we'll check with the counterpart. And if there's ready as well, let's just go ahead and conduct the actual negotiation. When we're done after the half-an-hour simulation, we'll be wrapping up. And what is very important is, obviously, I'm very intrigued, and so is Tim, to listen into what's your experience. What was your feeling about conducting this negotiation, both against the team using ChatGPT, but certainly also the team using ChatGPT? How was your experience using ChatGPT? Was it something you felt helped you, or was it something that was basically obstructing you from getting the best possible outcome? So that's basically the background. And after we have done that, as I promised, I'll give you some, hopefully, value feedback in what I felt you all did well, or what you could perhaps potentially have improved on. I just want to add one more important piece of advice on ChatGPT, and that is, as I said earlier, the more information you put in there, the better outcome you're going to get. And what often really works is ask ChatGPT to act as a certain persona. So if you ask ChatGPT to act as a negotiation expert, it will take that role. So you can ask it. And I actually have something, my own experience, which is slightly embarrassing. I told the audience about it in Copenhagen at the World CC conference, is that ChatGPT knows me and my philosophy and approach to negotiation. So I got a question, I often get that from clients, a certain negotiation challenge. And I got that from a client. And I answered that client as I normally would, saying, well, you should probably handle it this way. And I gave 7 different solutions to that question. And then I went to ChatGPT and said to ChatGPT, could you please answer this question being Kjell Jensen? And ChatGPT did. And the embarrassing part here is I felt ChatGPT gave a way better answer than I did. So ChatGPT, being me, gave a better answer than I did as a human being. And the main reason is that I'm lazy. Like a lot of people, we're lazy. So I'm thinking, well, let me just see if I can limit the amount of time I have to spend on this. So I just gave the limited amount, an absolute minimum amount of feedback to my client, where ChatGPT didn't feel a limit on how much data it could actually surrender to that question. So the answer from ChatGPT was actually really, really good. And on top of that, then I sent it out to 62 different people, not announcing what answer was from who, which answer was from me, which answer was from ChatGPT answering as me. And I asked 62 people which answer they felt was from where. And 58 of the 62 people got it wrong. They thought that my answer was ChatGPT, and they thought that ChatGPT's answer was actually mine. So it's actually kind of interesting to see the output we can get from ChatGPT. But I can only, once again, emphasize it's really important how you handle the prompting. That means what orders you're giving ChatGPT. And don't get confused, ChatGPT is not Google. So that means it's not about giving simple instructions to find something, actually better just to expand it. So take a look at the paperwork I sent out already, just to see how you can utilize ChatGPT the best possible way. All right. Oh, last thing before I forget, I would love for the team using ChatGPT today, if you could keep the communication string you got with ChatGPT, and if you wanted to share it with all of us, I'll be very grateful, because we can definitely use that as well. And please remember, by the way, guys, important thing, every time that you start a new question to ChatGPT, open up a new string of communication with ChatGPT. Otherwise, it will remember what happened and it will get confused and just combine everything. And then also remember that ChatGPT is not always right. Sometimes it lies, and lies directly. I had a funny experience recently where I knew there was an author who published 4 books. So I asked ChatGPT, could you please give me 5 books this author has written? And he came up with the 4 right books, and then it invented the 5th one itself, just lying. It just came up with the 5th one, because ChatGPT is very happy to serve you. So it's thinking he's asking for 5, I should better give him 5. So when I changed the question to how many books have this author written, then I got the correct answer. It just came up with 4 books. So how you ask the questions to ChatGPT is really important.
I actually put the question in, how many books would Carol Jansen say this author wrote? And it came up with 8.
Well, there I have to go. And if you actually ask about the title, Tim, you're also going to get some books that I've never written. It's actually really funny. It came up the other day with some books. I thought, did I really do that? No, I didn't. So there's some limitation on obviously the information that is in there. All right, guys, that was way too much talking from my side. Any questions right now, just before we dive in and do the whole thing and you go into your breakout rooms? Anything you're wondering about right now? So obviously, Mike and Caio, you're working together, non-ChatGPT, and you're going to negotiate towards Andrew and Doc. That is going to be helped potentially with ChatGPT.
Kel, did you say you've already sent us some information, or it's coming?
No, the information I emailed a couple of days ago how you could utilize ChatGPT. It was just some pieces of advice. The actual simulation, you haven't got that. You're going to get that right now when you're in your breakout.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Good. All right, guys. Well, if you're ready, I guess we're ready. So we can just put you in the rooms. Navisha, if you could help out. I think the rooms have been prepared.
It's put a generous supply of drinks and food into the rooms, so hopefully you'll find that.
Exactly.
Is this how you were dreaming of spending your evening of this show?
It is, yeah.
Just the perfect day.
He is there, so we are ready. Okay, guys, if you both are ready, you have 30 minutes from now on to reach an agreement. Good luck.
Thank you, Kel.
Okay,
We're
all here.
We're all here.
There we are.
We got okay, great.
Hey
Well,
guys, how's it going? Great to see you.
Good to see you guys as well.
Great to see you guys as well.
We were doing some
I
of our
understand you
planning.
got a. Sorry, Mike, I can't hear you.
Am my mic on? Can you hear now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So listen, I'm in my office here, studio.
Can't see you very well.
Can you see the whiteboard?
Oh, there we go. Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a 2-camera setup, and we were just brainstorming some things and putting it on the whiteboard. So I thought it might be productive if I leave it on this camera setting and we can capture some things or whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, we're glad to be meeting with you guys. You know, we've done business quite a bit before, and we're glad we're able to help you. That's great. Yeah. As you know, we submitted a bid for you to ship your furniture, and you came back a couple of days ago with some questions. Maybe could you tell us a little bit more about what those concerns are, what it is that you're looking for? Just tell us what your concerns are.
Sure. So we've got a big date coming up, November 4th. We've got a festival going on. We've got a soccer team coming in. So we're really focused on making sure that event is really successful. Our CEO is involved personally. So that's a high priority for us to make sure.
Mike, can you turn your volume up somehow? I can barely hear you.
Yeah, let me see what I can do for you. Okay, it says I'm all the way up. I'll try to step into it a little more.
That's a little better.
Okay. So did you hear about our CEO and the big event with the soccer team coming in?
Yeah.
That's critical. We make sure that happens. And of course, we've got the launch of the stores. So
Yeah.
those are business imperatives for us.
Yeah, big event.
Hey, listen, we'd like to talk, assuming we come to some arrangement. Would it be interesting to you guys to be involved in an event like that?
Sure.
I mean, sure as in,
I
yeah, you
saw-
wanted some
it
free
sounds
beers or
interesting,
like,
but
Yeah, we'd be interested in being involved in it somehow. Sure.
okay, like scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, gee, I'd like to get my picture taken on the red carpet, and 10 being, wow, we've got like advertising needs and getting that exposure would be fantastic.
Well, we're as you know, we're longtime partners. We've been working together for quite a while, and yeah, sure. I mean, it's right up there. It's right up there at around an 8 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know?
Well, you had asked us some questions. Could you elaborate on you had asked us questions about price and time of delivery and insurance, and we're not quite sure what you're getting at there.
Yeah, well, we noticed that you didn't quote the insurance. Do you have an updated quote on that?
We can, yep, for sure.
Okay.
It would be about 120K.
Ballparking. Okay. Talk to me about the delivery date of November 4th.
Ah, okay.
How comfortable, how confident would it help you to move it around?
which way do you want to move it?
Well, we don't want to move it back, that's for sure. And moving it
Okay.
up costs
Yeah,
us.
we figured that part out for sure.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have warehouses in place and things like that. So there's going to be a cost if we have to move it up.
Yeah, we sort of sense that. Well, from what we know about this event, the more time you have to prepare for it, like the earlier we can deliver, the sooner, or sorry, the earlier we can deliver, the better for you, because it gives you more time to get ready for your event. Yeah, we get that. Yeah.
Time is good.
Yeah.
Other than it costs us, because somebody's got to store it, and then we've got the risk of having it, on our property versus, in freight and transit or on your property. So, there's some costs associated with taking early delivery, but if they could be offset by combining shipments, if you got a boat leaving early, I don't know, COVID restrictions, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying
Well,
to figure
as
out.
it turns out,
Happens all the time. Happens all the time.
yeah, for sure. And well, the good news is, I mean, we have had a cancellation that we didn't know about when we made the bid. Some
Okay.
things have happened, which actually works very well. So
Well, Doug, I got to tell you, I'm always looking to make lemonade out of lemons. So if there's a problem
Yeah,
that we can help
exactly.
with, I like
I
to
got
make
a
1 +
win-win
1
here.
= 3. So,
Okay.
is there something on the table that would help you guys with delivery schedule if we can move it up?
Well, right now we can move it. We can move it to but I'll give it a good 3, almost 4 weeks to, let's say, October the 9th. That'd be the soonest we could. It doesn't have to be that soon,
Okay.
but we could deliver it as early as October the 9th.
Okay. I
But
think-
Mike,
think,
I gotta say, this came out of, this sort of dropped in our
Yeah,
lap.
it came out of,
But
nowhere.
we're gonna, if we don't make a decision today, we're gonna lose access to the space.
Yeah, that's right. Another shipment got canceled.
We're not,
And so
we're not trying to pressure you, but we have to know today.
Oh, so we're in a position where we can make decisions. We know exactly what our alternatives are. So getting to a firm yes or no if necessary is not a problem for us.
Okay,
Okay, good.
Tell
Okay.
me something about your sheet of paper. So you've asked for upfront payment, 100%.
right.
Why is that important to your company?
Well,
Your
money is money, right? It's just that's our standard payment terms, 100% on payment. That's just the way it works normally. So.
It's not
yeah,
the first I've heard that.
money, yeah, sure, money
Yeah, you're not
costs
outside the
money.
bounds of the industry. Hey,
Right.
what are your terms with your suppliers?
Well, the more importantly is the like our suppliers they're all over the place, but I want to just go. Oh, excuse me. Just get an understand. Oh, excuse me. Did I have this right? You had wanted to look at our price, our price of 520. Was a concern, okay, and time of delivery was a concern, okay, and I guess insurance was a concern as well, and then payment terms. Are those?
Yeah, they're all kind of interrelated. Yeah.
Yeah, they're and that's. Is there anything else that you were or is that kind of what we're dealing with here?
Well, that's kind of what we're dealing with. We were thinking because we've had a long-term relationship so far, but it hasn't been formalized, that assuming we can get to yes on this, then there's no reason we shouldn't also include future business, some type of long-term exclusivity deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Outside the bounds of just this one bid. Would that help?
Yes,
I'm gonna make an
absolutely.
assumption
But
here.
yeah, you're reading my mind. That was the
Okay.
next thing
Okay.
coming out of my mouth, actually. Would
like
if it would be possible to document our relationship and make it sort of a maybe, I don't know, 5 years term of where exclusivity, something like that. Then that would make a big difference. Yeah, we could talk about that and some of these other terms maybe. Sure.
Yeah, I think 5 is a long time.
Okay. We weren't sure about what your volume of business and how frequent these things were going to happen. So if there's more of them, if there's
Well,
more
we're
things
hoping for
happening,
growth
then
and
the shorter
expansion.
term is fine.
Yeah, we're hoping for growth and expansion like every other retailer out there.
Okay.
So let me just say, we can put it in play. It's 5 is a long time. Even
Okay.
most long-term deals are 3.
Okay.
And we haven't really, considered other than the spot buy market. So we'd have to have some
Right.
protections locked in, to make sure that we, are business aligned, if you will.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Well,
'cause I know
if
your costs are going to go up and down with fuel.
sure. So a 3-year term, that's good. That allow us to move a little bit, reflecting our long-term relationship. Why don't we move our payment terms from 100% upfront to 30 days? Okay. And we gave you a discount, or sorry, we gave you the preferred customer pricing of 520 already. But if we're going to go a little more exclusive, we can come down on that a little bit. Let's take 10,000 off that price. Let's go down to 510 to recognize
Okay.
the exclusivity.
So
So
let me
here's
just
the problem. Let me
keep
just
up with
jump
you,
in.
Doug, because you're moving quick. So we're saying what's our new price, Doug?
510
510,
payment terms,
And-
30 days,
net 30.
net 30.
Okay.
And
And did we make a
insurance?
decision on the earlier date? Did we make a decision on the earlier date, October 9?
Yeah, and delivery October the 9th. Correct.
So we're getting out over our
That-
skis here, guys.
Sorry?
I said we're getting a little bit out over our skis here. That's a international. That's maybe a U.S. term.
I
We're
really
going a little
can't
too
hear you, Mike.
fast. Sorry, we're going
Sorry?
a little too fast. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, because the number can't start with a 5 at all, 0 period. We have a cheap CEO, and we're looking at a number with a 3 to start, and then add the 100, and you're over on your insurance. So a number's got to start with a 4 for both insurance and the freight,
Really?
especially if we're talking on a longer term deal.
Yeah. Yeah. How do we feel? Oh, so we got the delivery. Is October the 9th an acceptable date for you? Would that be too soon?
It's acceptable, but it's going to cost us to store it in warehousing. So
Okay.
we got to find that money on top of the freight discount we're going to need and the insurance.
So if we didn't deliver it quite so soon, would that reduce your storage cost?
Yeah, if you deliver November 4th, it reduces the storage costs, although it adds some risk. We'd want to put some penalties in if you were delayed.
Right. Well, we're not going to delay. We'll deliver it on time like we always have.
Okay.
But so what would be if October the 9th is too soon, what will be a good date for you so that you wouldn't have to, we deliver it, kind of just in time for you guys?
Just in time would be the November 4th original date we'd asked.
Okay,
And
we
every
can
week-
do that.
Okay,
But
right.
if-
I know,
so-
yeah, you can, but I'm trying to help out your company. If there's been a cancellation, then I want to make sure that we help you fill that void, because you can't ship empty, right? That's the most expensive shipment on the planet, is shipping air.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
if you've got, if you've got the need to put it on a ship, we've got the product to put on there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's workable for us. The October the 9th date is workable for us. But what you said about the price, that it's got to start with a 3, plus insurance. I think we got a problem. That's
Okay.
not
How
even.
big of a problem?
Well, I mean, we had already given you a discounted price. The 520 is already a discounted price, and we couldn't come down much more than 5% of that, something like that. I mean, we're right at our line because of who you are, because the volume you've given us in the past. So like I said, like 520, we could come down. Well, we can come down. I said 510. We could come down to 500, but
Yeah, but here's
I
the
mean,
problem.
if you're talking 300 or something, we've got a major misunderstanding somewhere.
Okay. Well, and I think we do, because we'd love to wrap up long term, but if you can't be competitive on this big shipment, then we don't have confidence that you can be competitive for the long term. I mean,
Well, we
you know,
have
it's-
been
it's
so
a-
far.
there's
I
a
mean,
toll gate.
yeah,
Got it. And maybe I'm just throwing this out there. There's people who try to buy the business. So you could have, somebody out there just saying, "Hey, we want what they got." It's happened. I've witnessed it before. But it's kind of a toll gate. You got to be able to win this order before we can talk long term. And you're not at
Right.
that point right now.
right. Yeah.
But then Doug, I have
What's the
one
number?
question.
Mike, give us a specific number that we're talking about. Begin with a 3. I wrote down 395. Is that what you're looking at? Is that your counter?
If you could do
390?
395 and below 100 on the insurance, that'd be really interesting.
Well, we could probably, yeah, we've got a pretty serious problem, because that would give up, that would still have, let me think here. 30 days payment is okay. Yeah. Could
It
we?
costs us money to hold it. I mean, anytime we can delay, we prefer that. We're in the retail business and it's kind of in a slump right now. So
Yeah.
we could, or we don't have to just do one payment term. There's no rule that says we can't break it up into little tranches. Do a fifth,
Yeah.
the fifth, the fifth, the fifth over 5 months. We could spread that out. We've got June, July, August, September, November, October,
Yeah.
November. So, but
Yeah.
if we could spread that out over those months,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the question about being involved in the actual ceremony and stuff like that. Clearly, there's a good public relations thing in this for us. There's no question about that. What did we weren't planning on that. What did you have in mind? What we could do pretty much anything, but how would you like us to be involved, or what?
well, it can be as simple as, your key senior executives, their spouses show up and wine and dine. It could
Yeah.
be as interesting as we're planning on selling sponsorships. So
Yeah.
if you had some marketing dollars in your marketing fund and you wanted to get extra exposure, we could make that happen as well.
Okay, and announcing our 3-year agreement will be a good thing to do.
If we get to yes
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that will be part of, as part of our participation in that.
Do you have anybody in your marketing team that you could involve in this, or have you got any signals from your side that that could be something?
Yeah.
We have a corporate communication consultant that we use sometimes. They love this stuff.
Yeah, well, I think if you can get, the value of joining these it's not any soccer team, it's the Italian national soccer team. They are like 5, not 5, only Brazil is 5. They are 4 times world champion. They are 4 times world champion. And these will guarantee
Don't tell the
an
Germans.
exposure. Yeah, it's I'm joking, but if you can measure it in dollars, this is a very significant amount. And I think these, if you can involve and do some metrics of that, you will see that these will represent an enormous economy to your company and a very good investment in terms of marketing. And this is something that we are willing to include in our deal. And this is some sort of unique opportunity from our perspective, because we will have the whole Italian national team joining us in this ceremony.
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of
For
a
sure.
value would you assign to that? Advertising,
It would be a
PR.
function of our marketing budget, but we'd have to, this had never occurred to us. We have to float these ideas and talk to,
Yeah, we'll run that by our marketing people. There's no question about that. It's a good thing to do. Absolutely.
But this falls into the category of really interesting, not core for a business.
Yeah.
It's
It's
exposure
hard to put,
and it's
it's hard to put a
announcement
number
before
on
we
it for
do.
sure. But we certainly, yeah.
It wasn't really part of our organic marketing,
Okay.
but it's interesting as hell. I'd like to go.
Could you elaborate? I just want to make sure I understand. When you said you need our price on insurance, that's over and above our price, or we quoted 520, right? That was our bid.
Yeah.
Now,
And was it included in there?
You
Some
need to
people
know how
include it.
much of that was insurance. Is that what I'm trying to get
No,
at?
it's exclusive.
No,
No,
we want,
exclusive of insurance.
so insurance is not included in this 520, if I understood well. Is that correct? Is that what you are saying, Andrew?
Yes, that's how I understand it.
Yeah,
Okay.
insurance was not in that price.
Oh, it's
Okay.
and that's why our question, because it's such a high
Yep.
number compared
Yeah.
to the rest of the market, that we thought maybe it's included. But you're telling us it's 520 plus, and your open was another 120.
Yeah. So just as
But-
Mike said, we were considering something in starting with a 3. Andrew said 395, and we said, okay, 395 would be acceptable for us as long as the insurance does not go above 100, meaning that we would consider something around 495, including the insurance.
Yeah, so I guess we have a misunderstanding about which Incoterms we were quoting to. But our quoted price of 520 is for carriage and delivery. Not doesn't include insurance.
Okay, well, again, if we're going to talk about 3 years and all this exposure, what are we going to do on the financials of this deal?
Yeah. So just to do the math, I mean, I'll just put some numbers together here. Our quoted price of 520, okay, plus let's say 120K, that would put us at 640. Okay, that'd be the number 640, wouldn't it? Right? Yeah. Okay. And you're saying your number would be like 395 or so. So we're
If your
$200,000
number
apart.
on the front end is 640, and we're saying 495 included.
Oh, 490. So we're still 160,000 apart, 150,000 apart.
Yeah, but we're willing to talk about a long-term deal and advertising.
Right. Okay.
So these packages normally go for 300 to 500,000. So if we can get you a discount on that, where can you move?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can launch our partnership, make the announcement in the ceremony with the national team of Italy. We can assure that this will be at least a 3-year partnership, and we can associate your brand to the ceremony and to the event. That is also an important part of the way we see this deal. And we
Right.
feel that there is a good money attached to it that is not reflected on the actual numbers that we are seeing on this whiteboard. And this is big money as well to be taken into account.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Could we do, so you're at 495? Is that, do I have that right? 495?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty low number. We're having a problem here, but we could do it for about 550. We could give you better terms. We can give it 550, all inclusive, 60 days payment, no payment at all for 60 days. A 3-year agreement, a 3-year exclusive agreement, which is a really cool thing. Yeah, we'd like to do that for sure. Okay. And delivery on October the 9th, unless you'd like to have that a little later to save yourself some storage terms, but we can deliver on October the 9th, so you'll have all that flexibility. Yeah. And the 550 includes insurance.
550
Right.
including insurance.
550
choice
including
of-
insurance.
our
60
choice of
days,
October
60
9th.
days, no payment. A
Could-
three
could we take
year
the,
agreement.
If
Sorry.
we took the 550 number, could we spread that out in 1/5 tranches? So 110, 110, 110
Sure,
over 5 months. And
sure.
have the 60-day terms to pay each of those?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Let's check our number. We have to talk, Doug. There might be.
Okay. Can we have a, so tentatively, at least what's on the table now is 550 spread over 5 months. 60 days, or 550 spread over 5 payments. 60 days payment, a 3-year agreement, delivery October the 9th. That's the package.
We prefer it November 4th.
Or you prefer November the 4th, so early isn't that necessarily help you?
Or it does, and it costs us if it goes early.
Yeah, we will need to pay for storage.
I
Do
see,
you have a
How much
okay.
are you
warehouse or
paying
something
for
that you can
storage?
store it in?
What's your storage rate? I mean, we have access to
5,000 a
commercial
week.
storage.
5,000 a week.
How much?
5,000 a week. Sorry, 5,000 a week.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. We're not really improving
So a
on
month
that.
early costs us 20. You know, do you have commercial storage? You said.
Yeah,
I think you might be beating us on price.
yeah, we thought maybe, I thought we might have been able to help you there. We could do the storage for you, but yeah, you're
So
getting a
can we
good
get-
deal.
Can we get the November 9th or November 4th date?
What was the day what was our original? I think that was our original
Just-
date. Yeah,
that's
that we
what
can
it's
do.
about.
That's the date.
November the 4th. Yeah, the problem then is we still have that empty container with the cancellation.
Did you get any? Are there any cancellation penalties that you charge the other side?
We haven't worked that through. Well, we talked about it. But it's not really a good thing for us. We can recover a little bit of it, but not much.
Well, if you are able to store the goods here before until November 4, then it makes no difference for us the time of the shipment itself. So if it works better for you to anticipate the shipment and be responsible for the goods until November 4, that works for us as well. Or alternatively, we have this 20,000 cost that is purely cost. We are not making a dime there. So if you give us
Okay,
20,000 in discount, then we have a deal as well.
okay. Let's try that. Whatever your cost of storage are, we'll split it with you. We'll pay half of it. We'll deliver on October the 9th. We'll split the cost of storage. Whatever your cost is, we'll pay you half of that for the 4 weeks.
Yeah, but then this will take us to 560 instead of 550.
Yeah, we
So
might want to get.
So we would
think we're
prefer
gonna
to
have to
receive
hold
it
off.
on November 4 anyhow.
I beg your pardon?
I think they're saying they're going to deliver it November 4th, but the time between October 9th and November 4th, we're going to
No.
store it.
No,
But
no.
they're
And
gonna
they're gonna pay half.
Those
Yeah. Yeah, let me see
No,
if
no.
I understood this. This is the proposal, but this will take 550 to 560 to us
No,
because we are going to
deliver.
pay half of it.
We'll deliver on October the 9th.
All right.
We'll
Yes.
deliver
No,
on
I think
October the 9th,
we're going back to the original date.
And-
I think
and we'll pay half of your storage cost.
Yeah. So this will increase our 550 to 560. So in this case, we prefer to receive
Reduces your risk.
November 4.
Whatever. It reduces
Yeah.
available to you a
Indeed.
lot sooner. You can do your planning better. And we appreciate that there's a storage cost there, but we'll cut the storage cost in half. But you'll have all the stuff there, and so your risk goes down. And then 550.
I like the risk going down. If something weird happens, another COVID or a storm, can we get a penalty if there's a delay?
Yeah,
You said before that wasn't a problem. You were sure you were going to ship.
if yeah. Just a
Our
second.
CEO is going to be hot if this doesn't happen.
Yeah, he isn't gonna like it.
And your people will be embarrassed because they'll be invited. So I'm hoping we can line all the planets here and make sure the contract really incents everyone to get this done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we recognize the risk.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be the bad cop here. I'm looking at the numbers. We're not making any money on this. We're
Did
losing.
we,
So
were you able
we may
to
have to look
confer?
to.
Doug or Andrew, were you able to confer with marketing on the side and see if there was any, are they interested in buying any of the advertising?
No, I wasn't able to reach anyone. I'm kind of stuck on these numbers. What is, we're running out of time. We want to work with you. You want to work with us. We need a final, we need you to give a little bit of a push on the freight number, because our low is still, I'm looking at, we're not, I'm still looking at, what's our low? Yeah, it's 490. And 100, we're still looking in the 600 range.
What,
Do
hold
we
on,
have
because I
anything to
heard-
talk about there? Because
Yeah, because I heard the offer, listening to Doug, he said 550 over 5 months. I just captured everything that I heard him say.
yeah, that's why I'm talking now.
Yeah,
We're working it out. It's real time. We can't go behind we can't confer. So,
Hey, I'm going to ask Kel the question because he put 2 minutes, but there's no rule that says we can't ask for overtime. Kel, we're at the finish line, or I thought we were. Maybe the rug's out from under us. Could we have 5 more minutes?
But unfortunately not. No, I'm
No.
sorry. Mm.
all right.
So guys, we're prepared to accept this offer. Question is, are you going to pull it from the table in the 11th hour?
I wish we could talk. Hold on.
We need a conclusion, gentlemen.
Doug, you made the offer. You going to stand by it?
I'll stand by it.
Let's do a group hug.
Okay, so gentlemen, we have a deal.
Okay, we have a deal.
Hey, can
Right.
let me switch cameras and get back in my regular seat.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your effort. I know it's tough. I know, you have limited time to prepare. You're sitting with a case you're not accustomed to. You're sitting with a partner you're not used to working with, and you're just being thrown into this negotiation with a counterpart. And there's a camera on you. You're going to be recorded and all of that. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Now, great. First and foremost, again, thank you so much for participating. I have jotted down quite a lot of notes I wanna feed back to you on what I think went well and what you could have improved a little bit on. Just before I dive into that, I want to ask the selling side, Andrew and Doc. Obviously, I'm very curious about that. How was ChatGPT, Andrew? Was it something you utilized? Was it confusing? How was it?
We tried using ChatGPT, and I put in the whole brief. I did not find it super helpful. I found that it was either just repackaging, things we knew. Where it came up, we put in the whole brief. We asked for the top range and the bottom range. It, aside from a little confusion about who was paying for the relationship, it really didn't bring anything new to the table. It figured out our bottom line walk away, but it wasn't that complicated. When we asked it for specific scenarios, it would have required a lot more prompting to get it back on track. It forgot things. It forget when we said the bottom price was $490, it forgot that and offered a lower price.
All right. Okay. All right. So your experience wasn't that good. You didn't really feel it was
ask it for background stuff. Like at
right.
the beginning, I said, what are 10 questions that would be useful for building a relationship and a negotiation? And it came up with some interesting ideas.
Okay.
But when I said what do we anticipate as their counter offer, it said, well, and it got very, very vague.
Okay.
Well,
right.
it's hard to know.
Right.
Did you use it at all during the negotiation or only in preparation?
Only during
Sorry,
preparation.
Did you use it at all during the negotiation or only in preparation?
Oh,
No, we
only
used
in
it mostly in
preparation.
preparation.
We didn't use it during the negotiation at all.
All right. So it was only during your prep work that you were using ChatGPT. Okay, cool. Andrew, if possible, if you could share the string, the communication you had with ChatGPT from your preparation, that would be very useful for me. Thank you so much.
I will try to do that, Hubert.
I have one more question I just want to dive into, and that's a little bit more how you felt about the whole negotiation. Mike, do you want to share, if you look back at these 30 minutes, how would you describe this negotiation you just went through?
I thought it was productive. I thought we collaborated. I thought we looked at each other's sheets of paper, what could be important to us, like the event, and the fact that they had a cancellation and we could, help save them on that cancellation. I thought they helped us a lot on the pricing. Our CEO is cheap, and that's important to us. And I felt we, for 4 people talking through Zoom, yeah, we talked over each other a couple of times. My mic was a little low because of where I was standing. Those are technical problems, but I don't think there was any animosity. And I think everybody kind of worked fairly well together. We had some tactics reserved, full disclosure, that if it were going to be a confrontational, aggressive negotiation, we were ready with those tools in our toolkit.
Okay, all right.
As part of our planning process.
Now, Mike, I have a difficult question for you. If you should rate your counterpart, Andrew and Doc, on a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 obviously is the highest, the best, on credibility, willingness to collaborate, and trustworthiness, how would you rate both of them?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think I know where you're going. In some of the sessions that I've taken, they ask you to rate the other side and then they show you their information. and it's not always aligned, I found out. I felt like they were honest. I felt like they were they struggled a little bit. Maybe it was trying to not talk over each other, stay in their roles. Maybe it was how aggressive can we get, or should we get on this? There was some hesitancy in there that I picked up on, and I'm kind of assertive. When I feel hesitancy, I push more. So maybe that's one of my downfalls. I could be kinder, but I think I don't want to, 1 to 10. I don't know where to put them. Closer to the 10 side, because I felt like they were being honest about their situation.
Right.
And willing to work with us.
Right. I felt a little bit, Mike, that there might have been a little bit disagreement within their team. I don't know whether you picked that up, because Doc was offering stuff, and yeah, okay. What was that anything that had an impact on you?
Problem.
Well, it did, because as soon as Andrew said, "Hold on a second, play the bad cop," I'm going to reach out to the good cop and say, Doug, you made this offer, buddy. You're not going to pull it, are you? Right. So I'm going to ignore the bad cop. I'm going to, minimize their participation, and I'm going to capitalize on the conflict, that they had over there.
Right.
Now, again, I don't know what's on the sheet of paper. Yeah, Andrew could be a really good bluffer, and he just really bluffed the heck out of it by jumping in there.
Right. Okay. Doc, same question to you. How did you feel about today's negotiation?
I thought it went quite well. Mike did most of the speaking, and I appreciated his approach. He was responsive to my questions when I was asking for more information. I think it came forward fairly freely. I didn't sense any aggressiveness. I think he was recognizing that we've been long-term partners, and this was certainly was a collaborative approach until when he said our number. When I asked about the 520, he said, "Well, our number has got to start preferably with a 3." Then I immediately thought, "Whoops, just a minute now. Maybe Andrew and I may have misunderstood the information in the package, whether or not our quote of 520,000 included insurance. We were assuming that it did not. But if
At that point, in a realistic negotiation,
sorry,
in a realistic negotiation, when he said our number starts with a 3, we would probably step out of the room and confer.
Yeah, to me, there was clearly a misunderstanding either on our side or on their side. So I would have called it an immediate caucus. Right there,
Yeah.
just says, give us a second, give us a second. And we would elaborate. And if our quote did not include insurance, which our assumption was, then that put us like 100,000 apart. If it did include insurance, we were only 10,000 apart. So that was a glitch. But other than that, I thought things went well. But we didn't have a chance to talk among ourselves.
Doug, same question to you as to Mike. If you should rate your counterpart on scale of 1 to 10 and willingness to collaborate, trustworthiness and transparency, openness in general, how would you rate them?
9.
9. Okay, so it's pretty high.
Yeah.
So you didn't get any feeling that they were holding back information or bluffing or anything. It was fine.
No, I'm a very I talk a lot about trust. I give talks on that. I tend to be a very trusting person, maybe naive. So when he said 3, the number has to start with a 3. I assumed it was our mistake.
All right. Okay. Right. Right. Last question before I just give you some feedback. Andrew, the financial side of this, the agreement you reached, if you reached an agreement, is that giving you a loss?
The final agreement we reached with our the loss.
All right. Do you know how much?
As far as I know, based on the numbers I had, that was not an acceptable number.
Right, exactly. According to my math, it wouldn't work out for you guys either. I think you walk away losing money on this deal if you actually sign up on that. So I actually don't think that's possible. Tim, have you got any comments before I just go through some of mine?
I thought there were just numerous interesting observations. I mean, the start was obviously fairly disjointed. It is an interesting example of the importance of just thinking through the setting. I can see the concept of the whiteboard was a good idea, but in practice, of course, it created a massively disrupted and somewhat irritating beginning. Can't hear you. Where are you? Can't see you. So I think, working and making sure that you're setting an environment which is getting things off to a positive start. I didn't feel it, as a viewer, it was really uncomfortable. and
my scribble too.
I think
my penmanship is horrible.
I think and obviously, Carl, you're going to have a lot of detailed comments. I felt otherwise. It was interesting that I didn't feel, Mike, that your position was really being challenged very much in terms of on what basis were you demanding, the pricing you were. What exactly, there was never any push on you, in fact, to be particularly transparent.
You didn't think I was pushing, or you didn't think they were pushing back on my ask of a 3?
I did not think they were pushing back on you, that there was no pressure on you to be transparent, to say, on what basis. I mean, you sort of, I think, tried to allude at one point to the fact that maybe there was another bid at that sort of level, but you acknowledged that if there was, then it might just be somebody lowballing to try and win the business, which obviously has a risk component to you, so to expect a trusted supplier to come down to the level of somebody who may be a real chancer, or maybe it's just got a one-off opportunity, to be fair, for some reason, maybe they've got an even bigger cancellation. So it was interesting because this negotiation focused so much around numbers that it was interesting. I felt that there wasn't a greater push for some heightened level of transparency around that and the potential basis.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Tim. Let me share some notes with you. It's funny. I heard the word transparency and collaboration because I didn't really see that, and I'm going to dive into that. And I also felt exactly as Tim said. I felt that Mike was allowed to be very dominant and basically run this negotiation. And I would even go as far as saying he might, to a certain extent, ran over the counterpart in this negotiation as well. So he was definitely the one dictating the terms where he wanted to go, and the counterpart was just kind of supplying whatever Mike wanted in this negotiation. But anyway, let me just take it from the top. One of the things that I normally recommend that is beneficial for everybody in a negotiation is obviously creating an agenda. And the reason I'm talking about an agenda, I'm sure all of you would agree with me immediately, and you're probably using it in real life as well, is that it just creates a structure during the whole negotiation. What I'm often asking my students and clients is, so who should create the agenda? Should that be the host or the guest? And that's kind of a trick question, because most cases people will say, well, obviously that's the host that's supposed to do the agenda. And then I'm saying, in which law is that normally stated? Because if that's your belief, that it is the host that's supposed to create the agenda, and you accept that as a guest, well, then you're behind on points already. So what I'm normally saying is that I love both parties to actually have a pre-negotiation prior to the negotiation, where you basically negotiate the agenda. Now, what should be on the agenda that I was missing in this negotiation today? Well, I'm not sitting here with a perfect agenda just saying that's the way it has to be, because obviously there's many ways you can do it, but you definitely need to create certainty that you have the mandate. You're negotiating with the right people, okay? So they're the one that can sign off. Otherwise, you might have a repeated negotiation tomorrow or the day after. So that's one thing, making sure people are having a mandate. Second thing is, which is an important part, is rules of the game. And what I normally recommend is we have to negotiate before the actual negotiation on how we want to negotiate. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, we have to talk about how we want to negotiate, which order we're going to discuss the variables. Are we going to be open, back to the transparency thing about the variables, your cost and my value, or my cost and your value? And if not, okay, how are we going to conduct this negotiation then? And what happens if we're able to identify the asymmetric value in economics? How are we going to split that as well? Trust is, I completely agree with you, Doc, is essential for success in negotiation, at least if we're talking about creating economics. So I quite often address the topic of trust as well, even putting on the agenda. Some people are saying you can't do that. That's kind of a taboo. I don't think so. I think you can talk about trust if you feel that trust is actually declining, and you can verbalize that. The thing I loved, Mike, I would agree with Tim that it went a little bit off and it didn't really work from the beginning, but I love the setup you have. I love the whiteboard. I love you actually embracing visual aids. And the reason I'm saying that is because we have found without any doubt that negotiators who utilize visual aids are way more successful than those who don't. And that could be either, as you do, Mike, having a whiteboard in the background, or you just share an Excel sheet or share a screen or whatever you're doing when we're meeting virtually. But I would just in general saying using visual aids is certainly helping negotiator becomes way more successful. So what I'm talking about right now is the agenda, visual aids, and rules of the game. So we basically talk about how we want to negotiate before we dive in. Another small thing, Tim already mentioned that, was the opening. That was a little bit awkward. And obviously we're just playing a game, but that could create a little bit of I would say, one step backwards in creating the relationship. But that's just a small thing. And obviously we have limited amount of time. I also wrote down no small talk whatsoever. I was jumping into Caio's and Mike preparation. They were talking about drinking in Finland. And I thought that's a cozy talk they had. You know, that could be and cozy, nice way of opening negotiation as well. You know, talking about something that just have a relaxed, laid back thing for both parties. Anyway, we dived right in, and Mike basically told him that the price was a bit off, and what the price was on insurance. Doc gave the price on insurance. Then we talked about delivery date. Now I'm going to share something important with you guys now, and that is when somebody's asking for something or bringing up a proposal, replace the sound of the word with the sound of a cash register. And I actually mean that very seriously, because very early in this negotiation, I think we were 2-3 minutes in, Doc said, we can move delivery date to October 9th. I guess the sooner we deliver, the better for you. Now, the second we hear a negotiator saying something like that, we shouldn't actually think about, do we want that or don't we want that? We should instead immediately think about, what question could I ask the counterpart? And in this case, back to being transparent and open, identify values and costs, I would be looking at Doc and say, Doc, it seems like you have an interest in October 9th. Would you perhaps have a financial benefit if you actually delivered earlier? Now, That is the case in this simulation. Doc actually has a benefit of $60,000 if he's allowed to deliver October 9th instead of November 4th. And the challenge for you, Mike, is really trying to dig that number out of him. So if you're walking away from a negotiation that is supposed to be collaborative and not knowing that number, then we have missed the target. So my immediately question to somebody like Doc would be, just as I said, Doc, interesting you bring up this topic. Would there be a value involved in that? Just like Doc needs to know what would be the potential cost for Mike and Caio if we do it earlier. And there was a cost, obviously, because there was a storage cost. And you actually exchanged that very, very late, or at least Mike was sharing his cost, because there was a funny setup here where the buyer actually had a lower storage cost than the supplier, even though they were a transportation company. Mike's cost of storage was $5K a week, where Doc's cost of storage was $6,500 a week. So obviously the furniture should go in Mike's storage room, and thereby the parties could generate a mutual value of $1,500 per week. Not a huge fortune in this deal, but it's something that have to be figured out. So obviously the right delivery date is October 9th. So Doc, he can create his value out there, and the furnitures have to go into the buyer's storage room. So that was one thing I was missing. Another thing I was missing immediately was that, Doc, you quite quickly went into giving something away on payment terms, because you said instead of getting 100% upfront, we're willing to move to moving from upfront to net 30 days. Back to what I just said. If we are in a collaborative, transparent negotiation, we have talked about the counterparts' cost and value and our cost of value. So that will be the cost of money, the interest rate. So even before we're offering a different type of payment terms, we need to know what is my cost of money, what is my cost of money. So instead of introducing something like that and do a concession, I would instead have been asking Mike, are you willing to share your cost of capital? Because I can do the same. And then we would have figured out that Doug is sitting with a cost of capital that was 6%, and Mike had a very expensive cost of capital that was 12%. So you're actually going in the right direction, but it's a little by accident that you are extending the line of credit, because obviously the one with the lowest cost of money should be the one financing a deal, right? So actually, whatever that line of credit might be, you know, it couldn't be forever, but the longer, the better for both parties. That would make sense. But again, I was missing the question and the openness about exchanging that value. Right after that, Doc, you went into reducing the price with 10K because Mike kept telling you that you were too expensive. And in general, now we could spend hours on this by itself. We don't have that time, but we are not allowed in negotiation to give something away without getting something back. From a psychology point of view, Mike will misunderstand that. I'm sure you agree with me, Mike. When you got 10K that easy, you were probably thinking there's more where that came from, right? I mean, because 10K came quite quickly. And at this point, we don't even know if Mike is bluffing and what he's asking for. We have no idea what we're supposed to give him. So I would be holding back reducing price of giving anything away at this point. I actually made a note here. Yeah, sorry.
So I don't know if I gave it away, but I introduced the something that Caio actually came up with, is the advertising that goes with the soccer team.
Yeah.
And we put that on the table, not knowing if that would be of value to them or not. I don't know that I said, and by the way, we're going to make you this huge advertiser. Did you feel that was a concession that I made?
No, I don't. I think it was, now in this case, obviously, your counterpart didn't have any information how to deal with that. So you get plus point for your creativity, but minus point because it wasn't possible to negotiate within the deal. Now, what I like, though, Mike, about it is in general, the more variables we introduce, the easier the negotiation will be. So I like you did it, but as I said, the counterpart had no possibilities of actually giving you any feedback on that. They didn't have any numbers, any budget or anything. So they couldn't deal. But no, back to your question, I didn't feel that was concession in any way. I felt you were just trying to help them find a way to become more competitive. Because at that point, I think, and correct me, Mike, because I was just sitting there looking at it, but it felt like you were trying to help them because they seemed to be a little stuck. As you had introduced at that point that the numbers had to start with a 3, and Doc looked a little bit shocked when you mentioned that. I think Andrew did as well. So I think you picked up on that, and then you were trying to find an alternative route just to see is there any other way we can help them.
Yeah, it could come across that way, Count. I think it was an interesting interjection. I mean, it certainly fell into the expect the unexpected category. And you know, so I saw that a little differently. I think if I had been Doug suddenly faced with that, I've just had the news that you're expecting me to drop down into the 300s. That's a massive drop. And oh, by the way, out of left field, suddenly throw at me a meeting with the Brazilian soccer team. What am I meant to do with that? So actually, I didn't feel that way about it. I just felt it was almost an effort to compound the confusion and chaos.
Right. Yeah. I fully understand what you're saying, Tim. There was a lot of soccer teams on the table suddenly. That's true. Now, I made a small comment here. I hope you understand what I mean by it. I'm saying I felt at this point we're about halfway in the negotiation now. Why I'm saying I felt you talk to each other instead of talking with each other. I mean, it was more like I want this, I can't do it, but then we want that. So I didn't feel there was a lot of collaboration actually, where you were diving in and trying to understand each other's interest or value. And that brings me down to the next one, because Mike was actually opening up saying storing will cost us money. And there was just silence. I mean, it was quite an easy opening to pick up from the counterpart, and I would have picked it up and just asked immediately, interesting, are you willing to share that storage cost? It came out later where you actually surrendered that information yourself, Mike, but I would have been asking that question. And then again, as I've been saying earlier, I was actually just missing in general the question from Mike and Caio saying, what is your benefit? Because I was counting, and Doc and Andrew came back to October 9th 12 times. So they were very focused on delivering earlier, and obviously it's because they had a benefit of 60,000. So we really need to pay attention to that, and then ask the question, why is October 9th such an important date for you? Then Doc came into reducing price even more. He said we can come down to 500, and then he offered we can do 550 all inclusive, giving you 60 days line of credit and delivery October 9th. Then Mike came back with a counter offer saying, let's split payment in 110, 110, 110 in 5 times. And then very late, we only had 6 minutes left. We actually came up with the storage cost. So the storage cost of 5K for Mike was actually the only exchange of variables in what I would call a collaborative way. That was the only number that was shared in order to generate economics. The rest of it was basically in a more positional negotiation. And then Doc at the very end said, okay, we split the cost of storage as well. And then Andrew started to look very desperate because he could definitely see that the numbers here were not working at all. So I think he at that point just identified that we are basically just going to lose money if we continue this process. So guys,
the Brazilian soccer team.
Yes, exactly. If I could just summarize very quickly, guys, and then I'm going to show you a summary of this negotiation very quickly. What I was missing a little bit was questions. So that's open-ended question. What is your value? What is your cost? Why do you want to do it? What is the benefit for you? I was missing rules of the game. So the discussion, how we should negotiate before we start negotiating. The agenda, general openness. I know you actually, some of you felt this was an open negotiation. It wasn't. I was missing a list of variables from the beginning, so everybody agreed that this is the order and priority. The focus on negotiation economics, the asymmetric value, too much unilateral concession. Again, back to what Tim said earlier, I think that Doc and Andrew just accepted Mike being too dominant throughout the whole negotiation. I would probably have tried to fix that somehow. And then I would say, I know, again, limited time, but I think you needed a break. All of you. I think it could have been beneficial for all of you to take a short break just to figure out where are we, what's up and down. A little about the listening part, and listening is more about what is the true value and interest for the counterpart. And yeah, that's basically the summary I got. Let me just very quickly, guys, share a slide here that basically just summarizes the whole negotiation. 1 second. This is one that basically shows you the key point of, there we go. I hope you can see it right now. That's basically the negotiation and the variables we have on the screen right now. And you can see we got the variables to the left. That's the variables that was included in this negotiation. So it was delivery, warehousing, terms of payment, price, exclusivity. And if we could move delivery, as we just talked about, from November 4th to October 9th, that would generate a benefit to the supplier of 60,000. It had no cost to the buyer. Well, it did indirectly because of storage, but that's in a separate line. So the room for negotiation, economics in this case, is 60,000. The warehousing cost for supplier was 6.5. The buyer's cost was 5. So obviously the buyer should be the one doing that. We had terms of payments. We talked about 6 and 12%. And we had the price, which obviously is a variable as well. And we have 40,000 in there. So we have total room for negotiation in this case of 95. And out of that, approximately, depending on how we utilize terms of payment, the net economics amount is 55,000. So 95,000 is the total amount of money we can move back and forth in this negotiation here today. Should we negotiate price? Obviously, we should. But zero sum, when we talk zero sum, then price is a zero sum variable. I hope you all agree with me on that, because if Doc is reducing his price, Mike is winning. And if Mike is not getting a price reduction, he's losing and Doc is winning. So price is a difficult one because one is winning at the expense of the counterpart. So my recommendation is pick variables you believe can create a mutual value, divide that, and then when you're done with all of that, then dive into the whole price. So that's basically my feedback, which is very limited, and obviously respecting that you had extremely limited of the amount of time to handle the whole thing. So anyway, the point of the whole thing is, Andrew, I get it that you didn't really feel that ChatGPT was supporting you in today's negotiation.
Just a question.
I'm sorry, say-
Mike. Your number of 3 that it depends at 3s. Where did that come from?
So I'm a don't ask, don't get guy. And we didn't know what was on their sheet of paper. So it was our opening position. And that's all it was. I didn't have it from the other supplier, of course. But we thought, well, what if? Make them, we're going to ask, make them push back and say, no, you're out of your mind.
Right.
So the net of it is you finished up probably significantly below where you thought you were going to finish up, did you?
Yeah, we would have been happy with a 480 and 100% upfront. Spreading the payment terms was big for us. Getting the 60 days was big for us. Low value to us was the soccer team advertising. That had, that's low value to our side.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been high value to them. So that's what I'm always trying to get to exchange. Low value to one side can be high value to the other. How do you find those things and put them into play? And unfortunately, we had 30 minutes to, some may have gotten too creative, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Andrew had prevailed at the end and said, hold on, no, this just ain't working. I mean, he came back and said, we really need to be at 600. So if they had stuck at that position, would you have walked away?
I think we talked, we already had the 480 and was it 480 and 120 or 400 and 110? So we had 590 in our pocket. Anything better than that was, a win for our cheap CEO. That's what it said in the brief.
Right. Exactly. So how just out of curiosity, Mike, how would you reacted if Doc and Andrew had said, that's impossible, we can't do it. Thank you for inviting us, but we have to go.
So I would have said, well, what can you do? I learned a phrase that I really like, and I haven't used it yet. I might have said something like, what's the best you can do without getting into trouble?
Okay. Right. Okay.
Now we on our side had a plan that if they were going to be confrontational and say, oh, by the way, it's no longer 520, prices have gone up, the fuel, the Ukraine war, and now it's 600. So Caio, as a professional lawyer, was going to say, hey, I've got someplace else to be. You purchasing guys can figure this out, but I'm out.
Yeah, that was our B plan.
We were going to wait to see how, to your point, Kjeld, what are the rules of engagement here? And what I tell people is I can play chess and I can play checkers and I can play mahjong. I can play them all reasonably well. It's not my first rodeo, but I like to make the other side begin the process.
Right.
I feel like that makes them comfortable. And I like for people to feel comfortable. I think when people feel comfortable, that's a good, positive thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And obviously, Mike, I think we lost Andrew here. I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask it. You didn't feel that they were using ChatGPT, did you?
No, I don't think they were using it at all.
Right.
And in fairness, I've heard this phrase several times. I think it's really wise. ChatGPT will not replace you, but a
Mm,
person using ChatGPT
mm,
will replace you. Now,
mm.
in the moment, as a negotiator, if I were on that side, I wouldn't have known what to do because I'm trying
Right.
to manage all the variables. I'm trying
Yeah.
to read all the clues.
Right.
Yes, I was assertive, but I was also paying attention
Mm,
and watching and observing. So there was a ton going on. If you asked me, Mike, could you also type
yeah.
and read? I'd say,
Right.
hell, you're out of your mind. Nobody can
No,
do that.
no, I agree with that.
But
Right.
I believe the prep work
Mm,
and in a timeout, hey, let's take a caucus here. Give us
Mm.
10 minutes.
Mm.
I think ChatGPT is very useful
mm.
in those two modes. It's
Right.
just not as it's not there yet until we get virtual reality glasses and
Right.
and and it's picking up on the voice and it's
Sure.
talking in your ear.
Right.
Once that happens, once we go full Terminator, woof,
Right.
powerful tool.
Then we'll be really
well-
confused.
Augmented reality. Yeah.
And from my perspective, having no familiarity with ChatGPT at all, I've never used it. I've no idea how it works. But I kind of know what it does, but I've never heard it in any kind of a context. Yeah, and Andrew's not here. He did all the stuff on ChatGPT, which I couldn't have done. But anyway, for me, the value was zero. In fact, negative.
Mm.
Because it took away from the time we could have spent just discussing with each other about the numbers and whatever else, right? And what our strategy was going to be. We had a couple of disagreements in our preparation because the ChatGPT said something, but we got mixed up with terms like, well, what's your opening offer? Who's going to open? What's the and I said, well, just a minute. There already is an opening offer. We've made a bid. Our
Yes.
bid is our offer. So I was trying to say what I would, from my point of view, purely without ChatGPT, the strategy I was going to do, and kind of agree with this, I said, we've made a bid and they have come back with some questions. So what I want to find out is, where did their questions come from? Why is it important? What are the issues? Could you please elaborate on your questions for us?
Mm.
And so that was where I was trying to get the, and of course, and maybe we're kind of both doing that, but so when you brought up the delivery date, what was an issue, was a key thing, then I said, okay, then there's something we can do here. And you mentioned earlier the issue about the advertising, and this was a out of the blue, saying, would you like to participate in the celebration? And the whole idea of our and I think Mike even mentioned our exclusive relationship. Well, I knew that was one of our in our information, that was one of the things that we wanted. So I sensed, okay, we've an immediate agreement here. Let's do it and just get get something kind of off the table, not off the table, but yeah, I think I even said, you were reading my mind. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. So I was trying to get it more collaborative, but you're right, Cal, we didn't set an agenda, but what I guess we didn't have a chance to talk about that, but what I was trying to do at the very beginning was kind of set the agenda. What are the issues you want to talk about? What prompted your questions?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now,
I thought that bit was actually quite good. I mean, I did feel that the variables were being mapped quite well at the beginning. I must say, actually, with that opening, and you can't see, you can't hear you, I wondered whether that was a ploy to assert dominance and really sort of throw Mike off his stride, which I did find quite amusing. Potentially, I wondered if it was going to continue every time Mike said something that they didn't want to hear. Can't hear you. You've gone.
I like that tactic, Tim.
I thought of that.
Okay, huh?
Yeah, I can't see you, can't hear you. Yeah, exactly. Now just getting back, the final word from me is just getting back to ChatGPT. We've actually seen that some of the teams that have utilized ChatGPT quite well, what they actually did was they uploaded the whole simulation and basically asked ChatGPT to behave as the counterpart. So they basically asked ChatGPT to act in a simulation before the simulation. And that actually worked really well for them. So they basically just gave ChatGPT the all the information and said, you are now the buyer, you are now the seller, and please act as such in this simulation. And then they were running a whole game before the actually game, which worked out pretty well. So it's all down to obviously understanding how to utilize ChatGPT in an actual negotiation. All right.
Something that I would like us to do, because I think this would be really useful for the session, particularly live, where we've got the follow-on sessions. If we could take one of these scenarios and document the broad agreement that has been reached, feed that into ChatGPT and say, draft us a contract using these parameters. It's really interesting to see what it generates.
Absolutely. That's a
there
great
was
idea.
more precision in your group. You talked about the exclusive relationship, what precisely that might mean, but at least you put a term on it. Actually, the previous negotiation team also threw in that exclusivity right at the last minute to get the deal over the line, but never actually defined at all what it was. It's going to be really interesting to see what ChatGPT makes of that. There was no term to it. There was no definition of what was meant. So it is interesting. Well, again, time drives some of that, of course. People panic. I don't want to be the team that didn't reach a conclusion.
Guys, I just uploaded both papers, so you can go to the chat and download the counterparts information if you want to read that tonight, just to see what the counterpart had to deal with. So that gives you a little bit insight of their information. Any comments or questions, guys, before we wrap up today?
Well, I certainly, from my point of view, it was interesting to me to see how the technology could play into it. And my first exposure to it, but it's worth knowing more about it, because people are going to use it anyway. I mean, from my perspective, I need to get on board because the train's going to leave the station whether I'm on it or not, and so I'm more familiar with using other kinds of technology, which is a whole different topic, using computers to simulate the negotiation, but yeah, this was very useful, and thank you for putting up with me, Andrew, who's not here, but yeah, it was very useful for me. Thank you.
I have one more question that is being discussed a lot, and that is if you're utilizing, whether it's Google Bard or ChatGPT or whatever in negotiation, should you actually surrender that information to your counterpart? Is that an ethical, moral question? That is a discussion that is going on in some circles right now, whether you are actually supposed to tell the counterpart that you are using ChatGPT. Any input of that, Caio? Have you any thoughts from a legal point of view? If we feel we should, from an ethical point of view, share that information?
Well, I've been involved in this discussion, and for an exercise like this, for example, I don't see any ethical conflict in not disclosing. However, the most heated debate goes on in the academic side of it, because I have two kids, and my older kid, he's very into ChatGPT, and of course, at school we have been having some discussion on the use of it and how to make the best use of it without cheating. Right. But in this case here, for example, I don't see any ethical conflict in not disclosing. Right. I would be comfortable. I mean, if I were in real life in a situation that I could take advantage of the ChatGPT, I did not have this opportunity yet in real life negotiation. I use ChatGPT for other tasks. on my daily basis, but not for a negotiation.
Right.
If I have the opportunity to use it in a negotiation, I wouldn't feel compelled to disclose it. It
Right.
wouldn't be a secret, but from an ethical perspective, I wouldn't see any need to disclose.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Would you agree with that, Mike?
So here's what I want to say. I use a lot of tools to plan, and I see ChatGPT as a tool. And I have a thing when I negotiate, I do not lie. I would rather say that's none of your business, like be really direct, like really Dutch, than lie in a negotiation. That's why I revealed the 5,000. Now, that doesn't mean I say to everybody, "Hey, here's my sheet of paper. Please don't take advantage of me." So in this situation, let's take it out of ChatGPT. Do you expect a negotiator to come in and say, "Hey, by the way, I used the partnership negotiation plan," but before negotiations even begin? Are they supposed to disclose that they use your methodology or one of the others that are out there, ours? I don't expect the negotiator to come in and say, "Here's the planning tools that I used." So why would ChatGPT be different?
Right.
No,
Now, if I said,
very
"Hey,
good
listen,
comment.
by the way," and I probably wouldn't ask this question. It's a weird one. Have you simulated this negotiation in ChatGPT? You know, that's a weird question for me to ask. Now it's up to them to defend. Even if I did ask it, they would have to say, "No, Mike, we didn't use ChatGPT. We used Bard." You know, right? So there's some things that about the other side sheet of paper that they are what they are. They're never going to disclose 100%. This isn't like a court of law where there's an obligation by the prosecution to disclose.
Right. I think that's a very, very good comment, Mike. I like that comment. That's a good one. Sure.
I would agree with all of that. It's just a tool. It's like disclosing your disclosing your bottom line, disclosing information. Like Mike said, so long as you're not outwardly lying, because that's dishonest, and I don't. But yeah, it's a tool.
Right. Cool. Perfect, guys. Well, once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I really appreciate it. We are very grateful you want to do that. You're going to get a copy of this exercise if you want to watch that. You can view yourself and show it to the whole family if you want to. Or if you don't want to, don't do it. Obviously, as I said, the point of us doing some editing and taking parts out of this exercise here is not really to show you what you did, and those comments I gave you is not something that's going to be shared anywhere else. We're just going to use it to show the use or the lack of use of ChatGPT, whether it works and it doesn't work. So that's the whole purpose. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Any final comments?
I just want to say hi to Tim. It's been years. Great to reconnect. Kel, thank you for putting this on. Great to meet you. And Caio, my partner, fantastic. And we'll talk more about Finland one day. And Doug, say hi to Andrew for me. It's been a pleasure negotiating with you. Thanks to all.
We'll keep in touch.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.